Big Scream 5 news today, guys. We finally have confirmation that David Arquette is coming back as Dewey. We have an announcement of official writers, and we also know where the movie is going to be shot later this year. So stick around and let's see if we can piece together any more surprises. What is up, Scream team? Zach Cherry here. Guys, I started this channel because I'm a huge horror geek, and if you're like me, you might want to consider hitting that subscribe button and turning on those bell notifications so you can stay up to date with all my latest videos, including news, reviews, and rankings. Just for shits and gigs, toss this video a thumbs up. It will let YouTube know that you want to see more content on Scream, as well as help this channel to grow. In my last video, I gave you guys a homework assignment to give me your best Scream 5 ideas, and I would choose my favorite one and then read it to you. Once again, you guys had a lot of great ideas, but my pick goes to Charles Scott, who suggested that Sharon Stone come in to play a character. Specifically in his version, it would be Kirby's mom. But just having Sharon Stone come into this universe to play any role after being referenced so much in that first movie would be on par with Tori Spelling as Sidney Prescott and Stab levels of meta, which would just be super awesome. Anyway, let's keep this trend going. I want to hear more of your guys' Scream 5 ideas. You can comment that down below, and I will once again pick my favorite one and read it to you in the next Scream 5 update. So the big news today, as reported by Variety, says that David Arquette will reprise his role as Sheriff Dewey Riley in the upcoming Scream reboot. Arquette says, "I am thrilled to be playing Dewey again and to reunite with my Scream family, old and new. Scream has been such a big part of my life, and for both the fans and myself, I look forward to honoring Wes Craven's legacy." So three things that I'm picking up from that alone. First off, we're being told that David is reprising his role as Sheriff Dewey Riley. So that tells us that he is still going to be the sheriff of Woodsboro, and that also tells us that this movie will be set in Woodsboro. That's something that we probably already could have extrapolated from information and clues that we gotten before, but just knowing that he is still going to be the sheriff. The other two things which we're going to touch upon a lot in this video were the two keywords reboot and legacy. For all intents and purposes, this movie has been touted as a reboot from the onset, so it's really hard to gauge what that might mean, but they are specifically mentioning Wes Craven's legacy and honoring that. So they could be bringing this up because this will be a continuation of all previous 4 movies, or the possibility that they do plan on going back and tinkering with the timeline, and in doing that, still respecting the legacy of those movies, which harkens back to Halloween 2018 for me, where they did not directly acknowledge the sequels as being part of the continuity, but they still referenced them by paying homage to them. And since there's no part of this article which expressly states this as being Scream 5, it leads me to think that this very well might be that direct sequel to the original movie. The article goes on to say that Spyglass Media Group announced Monday that filming is expected to begin later this year in Wilmington, North Carolina, when safety protocols are in place. Ready or Not directors Matthew Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett are helming the reboot from a script by James Vanderbilt, who wrote Murder Mystery, Zodiac, and The Amazing Spider-Man, and Guy Busick, who also wrote Ready or Not. Plot details for the reboot are under wraps, though Spyglass said conversations are underway with other legacy cast members to join the film. So what's interesting about that is that this is actually the first official announcement that Spyglass Media Group has given us. At this point, we've only ever heard updates about Scream 5 through other sources, never from Spyglass Media Group themselves. If you've ever looked at their website, there's only ever been press releases about them purchasing the Weinstein movie library, which includes the Scream franchise, but that was well over a year ago, and even at the time of this recording, their website still doesn't show anything new. So they've been very quiet about what their intentions have been with this movie. This is really the first time that anything has been made official. We knew from previous reports that this movie was going to begin filming this month of May. Of course, because of the pandemic, that plan was kiboshed, but now we're being told that as soon as the restrictions are lifted, this will begin filming, but that might not happen until later on in the year. Presumably, even if they had that late 2020 start date, you could imagine that this film will probably be released just in time for its 25th anniversary. anniversary. I wouldn't be surprised if they held off until December of 2021 to release this on the exact 25th anniversary of the first movie. Another interesting thing about the production here is that they're going to be filming this in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is where they filmed Halloween Kills, which, as far as I know, is still going to be coming out in October. But the plan for that franchise was to then film Halloween Ends in Wilmington, North Carolina, and that was supposedly going to happen now or in the fall. But if they are filming around the same time in the same location, it is very possible that this new Scream movie will be set around Halloween time, or at least during the fall. With all the other Scream movies, they were always shot and filmed in places and specific times of the year where the weather was kind of nondescript. You didn't really know what time of the year it was. And especially since 3 of those 4 movies take place in California, you don't know if it is wintertime or when, but if they're going for more of a fall aesthetic, that might make the actual setting and season play more of a character this time around. Especially considering that this is going to be new directors, this entry in the franchise might have a completely different overall look and feel to it. Also, from this article, we now know that Kevin Williamson will not be providing the script, so I was pretty convinced that this was going to be his story carried on from the ideas for Scream 5 and 6 that weren't originally used, so I am now willing to eat crow and say that I was wrong. However, he is still attached as the executive producer, so he has a lot of creative input in whatever the story is that the writers have presented to him. We do have 2 writers on this film, which, I mean, is never a good thing, but when you look back at all the other Scream movies, there's always been so many hands in the cookie jar. Like, there's never been one person who's just solely written this script. It's never just been Kevin Williamson. Except for that first movie, Wes Craven has had a hand in rewriting the movie, Aaron Kruger, obviously, several other uncredited people. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if he did end up rewriting a little here and there. What I make from this, though, is that he's kind of let go of that, like all his ideas for Scream 5 and 6, as well as the toxicity that went along with it from dealing with the Weinsteins. So I think that whatever the idea that was pitched to him from these new writers was obviously a lot better, or at least on par with whatever ideas he had, that he would be willing to just forego those entirely. That's not to say that there won't be any elements from his stories that he held over, but for the most part, this is going to be a brand new idea that he had very little to do with. From everything that's in this article, he has a lot of positive things to say about these writers. Again, he mentions the words "the next Scream movie" as well as Wes Craven's legacy, so it's still really hard to gauge what the plot of this movie will be. At least now we know that this won't be a full-on reboot or remake, as they are trying to honor Wes Craven's legacy, and we have at least David Arquette confirmed to be coming back. They have stated here that other legacy cast members will also be joining the cast. We can probably assume that that will be Neve Campbell, since she's more or less confirmed it herself. Courteney Cox, obviously, I can't see why she wouldn't be involved either. You would have the big 3 all back, but this is such a vague statement. Like, they really don't want us to know anything about this movie. There could be more legacy characters coming back that we hadn't even considered, depending on what they do with the story of this movie. If it was just going to be Neve, David, and Courteney, I would figure they would just say the usual 3 would be coming back. But again, if they go the route from rebooting from the first movie, they could bring back Jamie Kennedy, they could bring back the guy that played the father. Even though there was a deleted scene from Scream 4 that said that he had died, I don't consider that canon. I think the father's still alive somewhere, even if they do a hard reboot from the first movie or continue on with a Scream 5. If it is a continuation after Scream 4, it could also be Hayden Panettiere, it could be Marley Shelton, you could even throw Patrick Dempsey, or the guy who played Gale's cameraman in Scream 2. I don't think that they're gonna go crazy. I don't think this is gonna be some big reunion. It will definitely be the 3 and then maybe one of the aforementioned people, but it will not be more than one of them. I can't see that happening. Unless it's Randy and Neil Prescott, you know, just so you have all the survivors from that original movie back. That's the only scenario I can see multiple people other than the big 3 coming back. These 2 writers, James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick, I don't really know a whole lot about them. I haven't seen Murder Mystery or Zodiac. I've heard that Zodiac is an amazing movie, but I have seen The Amazing Spider-Man, and, you know, I'm not a huge fan. Just going through Vanderbilt's filmography here, you know, he's done Independence Day Resurgence, White House Down, basic. He was a producer on Ready or Not, executive producer on the Suspiria remake, producer of Slender Man. He did the screenplay for Darkness Falls. It's been a while since I've seen that movie. I remember it not being great, but at the same time, I can't really judge him based on these movies. Nobody's resume is perfect. Obviously, he's a professional screenwriter. I can't judge someone who could write a script better than myself. Guy Busick, I'm not really familiar with any of his work other than Ready or Not. I just rewatched Ready or Not the other night. It's an amazing movie. I love it. Having said that, I do have a few nitpicks with the story. So if you haven't seen the movie, spoiler alert, shut this off right now. My biggest problem is the fact that Samara Weaving, who plays Grace, is not really an active protagonist. She just kind of runs through the movie and things happen to her, but she never really takes charge of the situation. She is a great character and it's fun to watch her, but when I compare her to a final girl like Sidney Prescott, she's nowhere near on the same level as resourceful, intelligent. She's more of a reactionary character than anything, whereas Sidney is smarter. She's more of a fighter. She tries to stay at least one step ahead of the killer. And just knowing that the original ending for Ready or Not would have seen Grace die, it just seemed like they didn't really know how to write this character. Now, there were also multiple writers on Ready or Not, so I don't know if that was Guy Busick's doing, but there definitely is room for improvement, so I hope that they can do a better job with Sidney or whoever it is that they're planning on being the main protagonist of this movie. Speaking of which, it's really hard to tell if Sidney Prescott will be the main character or that these legacy characters will just kind of be in the background, as this movie was supposed to start shooting this month, as you know, you would think that they would already have a cast included. But on the other hand, the cast that we're hearing about first and foremost are the legacy characters. So they might already have that main cast selected, and hiring the big three was just kind of like the finishing touch on that. Or they want to secure the big three first and then build the rest of the cast off of them. It's really hard to say right now. It really could go either way. Whichever route they go though, whether it's the sequel to Scream 4 or the reboot after the original, they are planning on honoring Wes Craven's legacy. So that tells me that they respect the cast members, they respect us the fans, and whatever we're gonna get is going to be scary. It's gonna be on par with that original movie. There's gonna be a lot of nostalgia involved. They're taking it back to its roots. The way that they're going about making this is that they want to make the best Scream movie possible rather than just making another Scream movie, which for me at least has always been the case with Scream 3 and 4. Just in my humble opinion, I know there's a lot of Scream 4 champions out there, but for me it just felt like another notch in the belt. The entire production team here knows that they have some pretty big shoes to fill, and I think that they're gonna rise to the occasion. I'm sure we're gonna get that official casting announcement of Neve Campbell and Courteney Cox sometime this week, if not before I even put this video online. But until then, if you're looking for more Scream 5 goodies, you can go and check out my back catalog of videos. There's lots about the plot where I delve into the possibility of this being a Halloween 2018 style reboot. You can also check out some of my ranking videos where I go through the characters of Scream 1 and 2, as well as ranking all of the Ghostface killers. That'll be linked up and down for you guys. Thanks so much for watching. I've been Zach Cherry, and I'll be right back.